All right. Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Sonya. Good to be here.
Yes, it is. That's what, to all of you all of our loyal listeners, it seems like we've just been here all through the holidays. However, we gave ourselves a break
Mhm.
and we have not recorded a podcast in about a month.
Yeah, it's been well, we had the holidays and I had some work commitments with
Yeah,
NOBS. And so just kind of where you've had work commitments and family and holidays and things, and here we are.
here we are. So I didn't even introduce us. Welcome to the Coaches Cup.
Welcome. Yeah.
I'm Sonja Green from Sonja Green Coaching.
And I'm Judith Fender. I'm a coach with the NOBS weight loss program.
Yeah, so we are out of our rhythm this morning a little bit. But it's good to be back. I have missed it. I've enjoyed the break, and I think every once in a while it's good to have a break to kind of, I don't know,
Yeah,
freshen up your mind.
get back in and get excited about it.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel too. I was a little stressed. You already know this, but our listeners don't. I'm like, I did read this. I read this book back in October. I probably listened to it 2 or 3 times. And I listened to it this morning on 2 times speed, um, and looked through it. And I'm like, oh, this is this is really a good book. This is
Yeah,
really a
well,
good book.
our listeners don't even know what book we're talking about. So let's preface that with saying that we decided,
Mhm.
yeah, we decided that when we first read this book, was it October?
It was
Wow.
October. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
as we were reading The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, if you are watching us on YouTube, then you've seen both of us flashing our book here. Um, we decided we wanted to devote a couple of episodes to
Mhm,
this book because um, I think the concepts are just perfectly aligned with our message
mhm.
and so useful to you in your life if you're trying to make some kind of big leap, some kind of change.
Yeah, and isn't that what we're all about? We're always trying to improve our lives, improve our relationships. Um,
All right. So anyway, we decided to take on the big leap and we wanted to talk about it today to talk about the question, are you getting in your own way?
mm, mhm.
Because, that I don't know that I guess society has decided that the first of the year we have this new year, new you concept. And so this becomes a popular time to really start working on yourself. Um, and so we're all about making, resolutions and things like that. And I think many times we've talked before about the fact that like 6% of the people carry through with those resolutions. It's
It
just
was
a really,
incredibly low. Mhm.
yeah, really low number. Um, Many times I think what stops people is the discomfort of change, number one,
Mhm.
but we start getting in our own way. We start letting our brain get in the way of our goals.
Mhm.
And
I I couldn't agree more. I feel like, as we're having a discussion about this book, there were so many parts for me personally that I'm experiencing my own growth as a coach and where I'm at on this journey, the things that have felt so true to me, so true that are in fact upper limit problems that, and just calling them that, it's just been interesting just knowing that I'm getting in my own way while I had that awareness to like read this in a what I want to call it, a systematic or a structured way
Mhm.
has been really enlightening. I have not done the journal prompts, I'm going to say that, but I do hope to get back to them and do them anyway.
Yeah. So his big concept is the upper limit problem.
Mhm.
How define that? Like, what does that mean to you? What is this upper limit problem to you?
Wow. So without referencing the book back, what he calls it, um, what I recognize it to be for me is the story you tell yourself when you've experienced the discomfort of um, growth and
Yeah.
wanting to get back into that comfort zone and not allowing yourself to fully be present because the feelings moving forward are unfamiliar,
Yeah.
uncomfortable, um, that you do things to sabotage yourself
Yeah.
to get back to where you were and staying what he calls it the zone of genius. We have, is it three zones? The zone of competence, the zone of excellence, the zone of genius.
Yeah. I think there may be one more, but
I
but
think,
those are
yeah.
the main ones that he talks
Mhm.
about.
Yeah, because who doesn't want to live in the zone of genius? I mean, when he just giving him labels like that, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to
Yeah,
be in the
that's
zone of
me.
genius.
That's
I'm
me.
a genius.
And I think when I think about this upper limit problem, the first time I read it, it simultaneously blew me away, and I was all in. I was like, "Oh yeah, of course that's true." But it's crazy. It blew me away because it's crazy to think about the fact that we have a limit to how happy we can
Oh
feel.
God. Yeah, I left out that word, limit.
Yeah, I mean, we talk all the time. So much of our coaching is around people who do things to avoid feeling bad.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we talk every week about
We do.
that.
Mhm, mhm.
But the fact that they also have a limit to how good, and I don't say they, we have a
Oh
limit
yes.
to how good we can feel.
Mhm.
That's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, even hearing you say that back, like that is what it is. Because and well, and he does talk about that somehow we think we don't deserve to feel
Yes.
good. And that resonated with me as well. I was like, what? Of
Yes.
course I deserve.
Yeah.
Why am I
Ye
doing this?
Right, right. On the surface, it's easy to say, I deserve all the good things." But in our brains,
Yeah. And
we have
he calls it the ego, right?
mhm. I think so. I
He calls
think
it the
so.
ego, that we have a strong ego. And just so
Yeah.
that we're clear, again, we're just having a conversation about this book, that he means the habit brain,
Yes.
the subconscious when he
Yes.
refers to the ego. Okay.
Yes.
Hmm.
Absolutely. That's what I get out of it too. Yeah. So we have this subconscious part of our brain, this the
Hmm.
habit part of our brain that, I'm only allowed to feel so good and so bad, which
Hmm.
means we
Live in his zone.
yes, a tiny little zone.
I liked it so much that now I'm kind of springing around the book here, but he called that living in a box,
Yes.
right? That it's like a box that you can check off when you're
Yeah.
living in either the competence or the excellence zone, that you're living in a box.
Mhm.
That when you're living in the zone of
Genius.
genius, genius, that it's like a
Yeah.
spiral, that
Yeah.
you're continually growing, and that that
Yes.
it's fluctuating and up, always upward. I was like, that's where I want to live. I don't want to live in a box.
Where we all wanna live, right?
Yes, yes.
But it's not that easy. We do
Mhm,
things
mhm,
to automatically, what is it that like cars have a governor on
mhm,
how fast they can
mhm,
go? Some of
mhm,
them do. Um, we have governors
mhm, mhm,
governing our feelings, both upper
mhm.
and lower limits there.
Is this where he talks about the thermostat? Is this what you're kind of referring? He calls it the thermostat, for basically the thermostat for happiness, that we learn
Yeah.
kind of
Yes.
in our childhood, that these
Yes.
are and that when the temperature changes and we feel this growth, this discomfort,
Mhm.
these unfamiliar feelings, that
Yeah.
our actions are going to want to turn the temperature back to where we're comfortable.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And so I was kind of referencing this to you earlier. I had a client who, in her marriage, she felt like she had married her soulmate. This was her second marriage, and she was just so happy in her marriage. And every once in a while, it would sneak into her mind, is he cheating on me? Is he being
Mm-hmm.
faithful to me? And
Mm-hmm.
there was nothing she could point to no evidence she could point to, just this nagging little feeling. And we were coaching on that about the time I was reading this book, and I was like, this is her upper limit problem. And
Mhm.
so we started looking at her childhood because that's what Hendricks goes back, and we'll talk about these barriers in just a minute. But he talks about 4 barriers that kind of rule how we set that temperature.
Mhm.
Um, and she felt like, because of some of the things that she learned in her family growing up, that she didn't have the right to be happy, to
Mhm.
be this happy. And
Mhm.
so whenever she started reveling in this happiness, in this joy that she had found in her relationship, um, she started bringing herself back down. I can't be completely happy. What if he's cheating?
Mhm.
You know?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so we started practicing, I started working with her on this upper limit problem, and, she is learning to she says it doesn't happen as often now.
Mhm.
Um, because she's starting to, whenever she has that feeling, she stops herself immediately. Number 1, lesson number 1, she doesn't let her brain go down that rabbit hole
Right. Right.
because that's what it wants to do. It wants to run as fast as it can and think about all the possibilities and all the, catastrophizing. Um, and she stops herself and kind of, lets herself enjoy this moment and works through that. And so it doesn't happen as often. Even after just, a few months, she's already having less of this problem.
Even
But
as you say that, my brain in the moment right now, my brain was like, is so true. Like our what happens in the
Mhm.
stories in our brain are incredible,
Yes.
incredible. Like I myself, so convincing, but in the
Yeah.
moment, nothing's wrong. Nothing's
Hmm.
wrong. Just some story. Whew,
That's what
sorry.
she said. She's like, "I feel crazy." She said, "I can't go ask him about this because he's gonna think I'm nuts." And she said, "And I think I'm nuts." I
Her, my favorite expression here lately is, no, you've just got a perfectly normal human brain.
Exactly.
We all, there's very little, Sonia and I were talking about this before we got on. There's not a whole lot of surprises in the brain. There's a
Yeah.
lot of predictable patterns that we all have in our human life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost, I don't wanna say boring because
Yeah.
it's never boring, but everybody we aren't as different as we like to think we are, you
These
know?
stories kind of serve a purpose. They kind of get to give us a little um, stimulation, a
Yes.
little, hey, this is interesting. What if?
Yeah.
What if my husband's cheating on me? Let's go down that hole.
And, why do you do that to yourself? Because, again,
It's a
to
fear.
bring that self down
Mhm, mhm.
and live within, okay, this is where so I'm just gonna go ahead and bring in these hidden barriers because at this point, I feel like we need to discuss what they are to keep
Okay, let's talk
talking.
about since we hope our readers are readers, our listeners are reading this book. Page, let's start on page 48.
Sure.
Um,
Oh, wait, no, we need to go back because the
mm,
first so he talks about 4 hidden barriers
mhm,
to letting go and
mm,
feeling your success,
okay.
to enjoying
Okay.
your success. And the first one, I know that this is probably there's he says that he's never met anybody who has all 4 of these problems, but
Mhm,
that it's very common for you to have more than one of them. So
mhm,
I will tell you that probably in my experience, the one that most people have is number 1, which is feeling
mm,
fundamentally flawed.
mhm, mhm.
That's the
Uh,
first barrier that we set up to our success.
when I read this, I have a client that I immediately thought of, and who has this belief, this thinking that from childhood, from the mothering that she had, that she is
Mhm.
all problems come back to this, and it holds her back professionally. And um, again, I say this like, I don't know, like it just feels like such a holding pattern for her to
Mm,
just keep her, like she finds all the evidence of how flawed she is.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and, and probably many of our listeners know that I coach women with imposter syndrome, and this is the thing. I'm
Mhm.
gonna stay small because
Mhm.
I don't deserve a bigger life. I am
Mhm.
not worthy of a bigger life because I have this fundamental flaw, and it varies, what they feel that flaw is,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it doesn't vary a whole lot.
And that's so interesting. I have several clients who have this thing about feeling small. So
Yeah.
even when you say that, I'm like, talk more, Sonya, about that.
Yeah, because you feel like you don't deserve to be the big voice. You
Mhm.
feel like you don't deserve to be there's something because you're fundamentally not worthy
Mhm.
that you don't deserve to break out of whatever role you're in.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I've seen people who let that they keep that from doing well on exams,
Mm.
or from not even, maybe they want to get a degree, but they don't even look into programs because what if I fail?
Mhm. Oh, been
What if
there. Been
Yeah.
there, done that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, feeling fundamentally flawed is probably the one that I see most often.
I
I
want to point out, he calls it here, he calls it the upper limit bug. This bug uses
Yeah.
in two senses. He uses it in two senses here. It's like a computer bug because it's false. It's a false line in your code. It
Yeah.
causes a breakdown in your operating efficiency. And it's like a mosquito sense too, because it bites you when you are going to a higher level of love and abundance and creativity. You start slapping at the bug and you bring yourself back down to your previous level.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. It takes your focus away.
Yes. Yes. So many of us, so many. Yeah. hmm We call it different things in coaching, but there you go.
Yeah.
Is,
Exactly.
is this
Whatever it
the one
is.
that has, does this have worry in it? Where does that come in?
He does talk about worry, yes,
But it's
and
not in
how
this one.
worry is it feels necessary,
hmm
you know,
hmm
but
Okay. I'm sorry.
all right, second one is that this one's the one I think that's on page 48, if I remember correctly.
It is 48.
Um, feeling disloyal or abandoned,
Mm-hmm.
and you wanna talk about that one?
Well, did I have something to say about this one? When we are stuck behind the barrier of disloyalty and abandonment, our unconscious mantra goes like this, he says, that we cannot expand to our full success because it would cause me to end up all alone, be disloyal to my roots, and leave behind my people from the past.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about earlier, you said, this is the one leaving the cave.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I wasn't sure. I was like, why does Sonia want me to say this one? Yeah, I did. I did say
Just
that.
throwing you this one.
Yes, because yeah, when we a lot in coaching and how when we think about the habit brain and why we have these um, necessary pauses, or what holds us back is we just have to have this realization that it served a purpose somewhere in our life,
Yeah,
albeit thousands of years ago, to keep us safe. This is the one, I'm going to stay in the cave and be with my people.
yeah,
I'm going to stay and be like my people. I'm not going to leave my people because there's fear in leaving my people. Will I survive without them?
yeah.
Mhm.
And I see this often with students who are first generation college students.
Mm, mhm, mhm,
So nobody in their family has a
mhm,
college degree.
mhm.
And so there's this break. There's this point you hit your upper limit problem because somewhere between they're proud of me and I'm bettering myself. It's just a thin little line to, oh, I think I'm better than they are.
Yes, yes. Oof.
And so you've got to bring yourself back down so you
Mhm.
don't seem uppity, so you don't seem better than everybody else. And it's that struggle with how far you let yourself go away
Yes.
from what?
I don't think anyone in my family listens to the podcast. Let me talk about me.
Listen, I mean, this is a really common one.
It is. I myself, I'm first generation college.
Mhm.
Could even be, neither of my parents got a high school education. Not that they weren't smart people, it was the time, and they were entrepreneurs at a young age. I want to be sure and say that.
Yeah,
Like,
very successful
very
entrepreneurs.
successful, very proud of my family. However, with that said, when it came time to the end of my high school education, there was not a lot of support to get a college education. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I needed that. I had a lot of awareness that I needed to
Mhm.
part from my family. I was already on the psychology route. I loved it in high school, and I wanted to pursue it in college, which I did.
Mhm.
Um, but I needed that time to grow up away from family. And while I did have support, right? There was financial support, the emotional support. Like this
Yeah.
was like I was very aware of how when I came home, how I handled myself. And there was the dialogue. I can't tell you there wasn't a time or two where it said, "Well, you got that college education, you can figure this out." Like, it was kind of a backhanded, was used against me. I
Yeah.
was very aware.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and I think that that's a pretty common thing. People
keep you back.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, we are life coaches, so we know that this all comes out of our own brains and how we think about those issues. Um, but even if your family's not pulling you, sometimes you feel that pull.
Yes.
I remember, what it was like to come home from college and to feel different and to not quite, I'm still like I have to spend the holidays at home, but I don't feel like these people anymore. I feel somehow different from these people. And, being in that space, it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Even
And
as I
so,
said that, I'm like, "What? Wait a
yeah.
minute."
Yeah. Well, and,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my daughter and I have had some
Mhm.
conversations about it this Christmas because she's been home because of the pandemic. She's
Mhm.
been home pretty much since Thanksgiving
Mhm.
doing things online. And, even though I am much more aware probably than the average mom what it's like for a college student to be in that situation. She has her own apartment, and so, she doesn't wanna come home and answer to curfews and crazy things like that. She's a grown woman now, but at the same time wanting the support and the comfort that you were talking about.
Mhm.
It's a difficult place to be, and we've talked about that several times over the break of how this is your moment to really leave the nest,
Mhm.
but that's uncomfortable, and it's doubly uncomfortable if you feel like you are somehow abandoning your family while
Yeah.
you're doing that.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about this in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a big one.
Mhm. Mhm.
The
True.
3rd one, I'll move on along, is that more success brings bigger burdens.
Mm.
And we've mentioned this before, but I have to bring this up because I think it's just the perfect example of Brooke was live coaching a well known coach. And she was asking the coach why she wasn't making more money, why she wasn't making $1 million. And the coach said, just right there, I mean, her gut response was, well, it would be a lot of responsibility to make $1 million. And then she,
Yeah, I saw that one too. Yeah.
I thought that was the funniest moment because it's just so we are always running a script in our brains,
Mhm.
but we don't always tell
Mhm.
our prefrontal cortex what's going on.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that was the moment where she realized, this is the script I have running. This is my upper limit problem.
Mhm.
Do you coach people that deal with this one?
Um, it's not resonating with me. Even as I'm looking, I'm trying to think even for myself. Um, I did like his story where he talked about his personal story of that his birth was both a burden and a celebration. I thought that
Yeah.
was a powerful explanation into this, where I don't know, Sonia, maybe you remember more how he explained that, which it just beautifully tied into that, with his success was a burden, like that his family
Yeah.
didn't view anything he did as his successes were their burdens.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And that this is probably the one that I see the least.
Mm,
But I think the funny thing, I mean, the thing about it to me is that it's there sometimes. And we do think um about maybe we don't even realize it, but unconsciously we're thinking about, if I get a promotion, I'm gonna have all this responsibility that I don't have now. I'm gonna have to spend time away from this or that. I'm not gonna get to do this or that. And
mhm.
in that way, I see it playing out sometimes. We tell ourselves the story that it's gonna be a burden to grow.
With this, I'm trying to think of like in a weight loss client where this would fall into play. And I
Oh,
immediately
yeah.
thought of like, is this where they think that they can't go out with their friends because they can't eat the same food? Would this be something like that?
Well, it could be. I think about it in weight loss, because you see people who think, well, if I'm thin, then I'm gonna have to what if I find a new relationship? You see people who've been hurt, and so they hide in their weight.
Mm,
They hide from relationships, they hide from jobs, from promotions.
mm,
They find safety in being
mm.
overweight
Okay.
because the
It's going to
societal
change.
expectations are
Okay.
lowered, they think.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Again, folks, don't hear me
Right.
saying that's true,
The
but
story.
that's the story our brain tells us is, if I'm overweight, then nobody's gonna expect me to go for that promotion.
Hmm.
If I'm overweight, nobody's gonna ask me out.
Hmm.
So I don't have to deal with that. So that's where I see, the more success brings a bigger burden playing out.
Hmm. Mm, I appreciate that. Hmm.
Yeah. And the last one is the barrier of outshining people around you. Now, full disclosure, I am an only child. So this is not something I ever experienced, but people who come from a family of siblings, often if you're the older one, or I don't know that birth order really matters here, but if you outshine the others, and growing up your parents were like, well, you need to, let Susie talk, or let Tommy talk, or whatever it is. If you are taught that you don't need to outshine the others,
Mm,
um maybe it was a teacher who did that,
mm.
but people who feel the barrier of not outshining everybody else around you. I'm not important enough, so I don't need to speak up right now.
I don't know. I'm going out on a limb here. I'm just curious your thoughts about this. Like, so I grew up in a small country town, and our family like had money,
Mhm.
and I was always taught in our family, like, my if my mom got a new car, dad did not want her driving it to work. Like, you were not to be outshining anyone, and
Yeah.
that mentality was also, I always felt like I couldn't. I don't want to say be myself, but always downplaying
Mhm.
if we were going to travel, or if a car or clothes, like things, like
Mhm.
I always was trying to not outshine my peers.
Yeah.
Like, Is that would that be
That's hilarious because I told you I didn't have this issue at all, but now that you're starting to talk about that, I will say that that's probably I do have that experience, not with money, but with my degree.
mhm.
I don't go around saying I'm Dr. Sonja Green.
Yeah.
I make my kids call me that, but other than that,
Don't you forget it.
yeah, I mean, I downplay that. In fact, I had a big conversation with myself when I was um, thinking about my coaching business. Do I want to mention having a PhD? Do I want to bring that into the conversation and let clients know that I do, or do I not? So I think that's that sense of letting them know who I am completely because I don't want to set myself apart too much.
Yes, that would probably be more a stronger that resonates with, like, I wanted to fit in with my people. Do you see
Yes.
what? And I didn't like that feeling of them separating me out for
Yes.
any
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you don't yeah, for any reason, that's right. It could be and again, it's keeping you in that box.
Yeah,
I'm
because I was already
voguing. For those
overweight.
of you who aren't watching, I'm voguing right now.
Right.
Keeping you in that box.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can't be too far above, too far below. I need to just fit in and be
Fit in.
accepted.
Yeah. Mhm. Oh, look at me just learning all about me. Thank you,
It
hon.
it's really no, it's such a fascinating book.
Mhm.
It's very short, folks. So if you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
read this, we'll talk to
It's
Dr.
4
Hendrick
hours
about
on
sending us more royalties.
it's 4 hours on the audio.
Yeah, it's only
Uh,
200 pages. So
yeah.
it's a quick read, but so full of good information. And we're gonna wind this down for this week, but next
Mhm.
week we'll be back talking about being in integrity with yourself and how
Mhm.
that connects to this too. But for this week, um, any homework you want to give them? Any things you want to leave them with to be thinking about with the hidden barriers and just figuring out their upper limit problems?
Yeah, just be asking yourself, where in your life are you trying to get to? And what is getting in your way? Let's just
Yeah,
look at that. Like, you're telling yourself a story somewhere and you're finding yourself, you're holding yourself back. How are you doing that?
yeah, yeah. Which of these hidden barriers are you using? We've given you four.
Mhm.
You probably are using at least one, but most likely I'd say at least two.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's certainly easy to see where all of these can play into people's lives.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
All
stuff.
right. Well, we strongly recommend it, and we are glad to be back and in the groove of podcasting again after our little break. So we'll see you all next week, and we'll talk about being in integrity with yourself.
Sounds
Until
good.
then, I'm Sonia Green.
And I'm Judith Fender.
See you next week.